thank you for joining us. We do a regular feature where we interview friends of the library, and we're very pleased that you could join us today. So we'll start with the obvious first question, which is, why did you become a friend of the public library?
Oh, well, two reasons. One, to get discounts on books. I buy lots of books at the bookstore. I write a regular history column for the Chronicle about San Francisco, and obviously I just published a big book about San Francisco, Cool, Great City of Love, and I have a massive interest and collection of San Francisco books. And the library, I shop at various bookstores of the library. I shop at the one in the main branch downtown or in the Civic Center, and I also shop at a lot at the one that's over by Fort Mason. And so I've been a member for a number of years. I think I've dropped in and out sometimes. I probably shouldn't have, but so the one reason is just is a financial self-interest. You get the 10% off the books because I buy enough of them that it's well worth it. But even if it wasn't worth it, I would still want to do it just because it supports the library. And libraries are incredibly valuable, wonderful institutions that deserve all the support that we can give them.
Do you believe libraries still have an importance in society today?
Oh, incredibly, absolutely. You just have to walk into any branch of any library at any time, which I do a lot, and I don't just use those two. I use the main, but I go to various other branches. I go to the Chinatown branch sometimes, different branches, the beautiful new North Beach branch, and you go in and you see, a whole spectrum of people from the city. Every walk of life, every racial, ethnic group, every socioeconomic group, all reading books or listening to music, using the computers, and it's one of those things that is truly inspiring. It's what civic amenities should be, and it's one of the. You get more bang for your buck in terms of a library provides cultural, educational amenities to all of the population of a city. It's free. The book is not dead. People still read a lot, and you see it when you go into the libraries. You see, hundreds of people of all ages, happily read, whether it's reading the daily paper or reading Spinoza. They're all in there using the library. So it's a wonderful thing, and it's absolutely essential that all libraries throughout the country be supported and continue to exist. They are one of the great civilizing forces in society. I think that by sort of holding up the banner of hard physical books, it's actually an entity that says symbolically books are important, real books are important, physical books. Of course, fine if you want to read on a tablet or whatever, that's fine. But the fact that libraries are there with this, announcing the power and permanence and importance of books that's an important intangible lesson for people to pick up on. I'm a huge believer in absolute right of privacy of patrons using anything in the library, and the idea that the NSA, the CIA, or any other government agency is like going through library records and finding out what people are reading, I just find appalling. And it's just wrong. When you go into a library, you have the right to expect that whatever you're looking at is your business. There isn't anything that's more sacred than that. And I think there was a lot of national security mania after 9/11 that got out of control. Kids today have no idea how difficult and time-consuming it was to do research, and it involved physically being in the place where the book was. So the libraries now don't have to jump through those kind of hoops to help you. But they now have, very robust electronic resources, which I use a lot. One of the things I find incredibly useful is the internet databases for historic newspapers, which are fantastic for historians because so that's often as good a source as there is for things that happened a long time ago. The electronic research, like any teacher knows, it's a double-edged sword, especially for young and inexperienced with students. There's a reason that many schools do not allow students to use Wikipedia, for example. Obviously, many Wikipedia entries are incredibly solid. They're really good, but some of them are not. And you have to be an educated person to know how to educate yourself on the internet. It's kind of like a chicken and egg thing, because once you get more sophisticated, you can sort through. You can do a Google search, enter keywords, and find out whatever it is you're looking for, and get 100 things. And once you're sophisticated, you go, okay, 20 of these are crap. 30 of them are okay, and 50 of them are great.
Right.
But it takes a lot of experience to get to the point of doing that. So there's a reason that schools are very wary of just turning their students loose on the internet. But it's an incredible resource, and it obviously, in some ways, you could say, okay, that's diminished the need for libraries because people have this information electronically. But I think that ultimately, even if you could get everything in every library, just by pushing a button and sitting at home, okay, that would be great, and I don't think we should all move towards that point. But I think there would be an enormous value of still having the brick and mortar libraries.
Right.
I think they serve both a symbolic function, and it's a civilized place to go, and it creates a sense, in its own way, it creates a sense of community in a city that people are using this public space. If you're using it and you're simply sitting at home, that's one less thing to remind you that you're part of a polis. I think it'd be nice for people to recognize this extreme duality that San Francisco has now of greed and rebelliousness is inscribed in its character. It's been both a fascinatingly independent, free-spirited, maverick, eccentric place, and also like cutthroat individualism, greed, and maniacal quest for wealth. Those two things have existed simultaneously in the city from the beginning in really interesting ways, and there have been conflicts and struggles between because as we came into the 20th century, and later in the 20th century, San Francisco became an extremely left-wing city, and I'm a liberal and left-winger myself, but it's been there's all kinds of fascinating conflicts between these different facets, and they don't all line up neatly, because this has always been also a city of rich left-wingers, so that it isn't sort of a classic Marxist thing. There's a fascinating history of just a violation of a lot of stereotypes that pertain to both class and wealth and race. The city is really paradoxical and complex in its history, and it's like you can't sort of search back into its past and go, oh, this established it as what it is, and we're going to take that as our motto. You can't say, oh, San Francisco was always like this rebellious place and flying in the face of New York and the East Coast, which it was. But at the same time, it was also, as I say, driven by extreme greed, and was also had a deeply corrupt political system for much of its history, as well as tremendous altruism and an incredible tolerance in so many ways. So I think it'd be nice. It's nice for people coming into the city to recognize just the richness of its history and how multifaceted it is. And in a way, you can kind of pick and choose from that history and use it to reinforce whatever your own predilection of how you want to live your life or the kind of city you want to see now. But I think it's important to realize it didn't all just start with the dot-commers. It didn't start with it didn't just start with this latest tech boom or the previous dot-com boom or the hippies. Or the Beats. It goes back. All of those are important and part of the story, but it goes back way before that as well.
If you could read
Right.
for pleasure, and it wasn't about San Francisco, what would you put on your summer reading list?
Oh boy.
Without offending any of San Francisco's literary,
Yeah, I think,
luminaries.
I think I might be, I would love to read a whole bunch of Henry James. I just haven't read him for so long, and that would be just a really fun, immersive project, just to plunge into him. And I think I'd read some of the, there's some contemporary writers that I need to catch up on. I'd like to read some of more Michael Chabon, some of the great writers in the area that I just have not kept up with as much as I'd like to. So I'd sort of do so that's what I do on the fiction end, and nonfiction. Let me think. Trying to think if there's anything that I've been particularly... Oh, I'd like to read the Thomas Piketty book, which everyone's talking about now. I go kind of nuts at that big book sale, and it becomes... I have a sort of a book problem. I have like more than 10,000 books, and I've had to ship them off to the country because I don't have room for them. And the book sale is, the big book sale is just like kid in a candy store time, and I've got to learn to control myself. But
do you have a favorite branch library that you want to tell people to go and visit that maybe isn't on the main beaten path?
there's a beautiful one that I love. That's I can't remember what it's called, but it's at Green and Octavia or Laguna. Big ovally kind of sandstone, sort of Beaux-Arts looking building, really nice high ceilings, relatively small. It's a really charming library. The new Northreach Library is beautiful. That was a great thing. I think I have no idea why there was so much resistance to the idea of putting in the new library there. It's an incredible addition. I'm fond of the Little Chinatown branch. It's kind of funky, but it's really heavily used, and it's that's a really nice library. I sometimes pop into the one over in the Western Addition. It's near Steiner and what street is that on? It's like Sutter or something, or Post. It's at Post and like Pierce or something. And that's a nice little library. The Bernal Heights Library is nice too. There's a little one over at Bartlett Street in the Mission. That also has a charming old, similar style building to the one that's near Union Street. And of course the Main. I love the Main. Libraries are one of the things in any city that are the most worth supporting. They are a complete good. There is nothing wrong with them at all. In every way, they're positive. They, instill a desire for learning and education. They're an alternative to other activities that are sometimes not as positive. They're great for all ages. They're a great link with our entire human past and provide access to it. And so an auxiliary group like the Friends of the Library that is essentially volunteer. It's not a profitable enterprise. It exists to help this great institution. If you can't support something like that, what can you support? So I would urge everyone to support